Okay, so now we'll be focusing on the PDP experience for a mentor and a mentee working through a Shadowmatch personal development program. Now, what is a PDP? It's an outcomes-based experiential learning program that guides an individual to learn a specific habit. So we focus in on one of the habits measured by Shadowmatch. For an example, resilience, propensity to change, conflict handling, to simplify, any of the 19 habits, as well as time management, so any of the measurements measured by the Shadowmatch worksheet. The program, all of the content is on the system. So we've worked out the process to say, but what are the actions, the steps, the things someone should do to actually learn this specific habit? So in other words, to make that pattern of behavior fitter and the neuron pathway embedded to a stronger extent. So what we're doing here is, if you think about your Shadowmatch graph, we're building that habit that it becomes more automated, that there's more of a pattern for that specific behavior for the specific individual. So that's just the theory behind the PDPs. These are the practical programs that actually help an individual to develop this specific habit. Now, there's lots of webinars positioning how you can use this optimally for employee engagement and employee development and all of the amazing things. Today, we're just practically going to go through the steps, the experience of what does it look like if I'm invited to do a PDP as an individual, and then what is the experience of a mentor. Now, for this, we advise that a mentor does the journey with the individual. The reasoning behind this is just to help that person to really stick to this program, to say, I'm adding this to my to-do list, but life is going to happen. So it's easier if I have a buddy that keeps me accountable to say, remember, phase 2 still needs to happen in April. So even if it's financial year end and what, that still needs to happen. Because if we do the personal development solo, only on our own, you know how many of us are really going to do it from start to finish. So to minimize the excuses slipping in, we've designed it that a mentor walks this journey with you. Now, the mentor doesn't have to be effective in the specific habit. So I don't have to be very effective in leadership or very effective with the habit of resilience or any of the habits to mentor someone. Why? Because the content is worked out. So I don't have to think, okay, how am I going to teach someone innovation? What should they read? What should they do? All of that is worked out, vetted to say, does this actually happen? So the mentor is really someone that walks this journey with the individual, that helps them to stay accountable, and that is positive and motivates them to say, listen, yes, let's do this. Well done on phase 1. Let's focus on this in phase 2. So they guide them through the journey. Now, if you use the PDPs in an organization, you can then choose, are the individuals choosing the mentors themselves? So is it someone they prefer to do this journey with, or is it a process where you've identified mentors internally? In other words, you might have said one of the areas in your business are going to be mentors for the other area. It's maybe the managers in specific areas. So this is also explained in the webinars to say your reasoning and thinking behind choosing mentors should align with your vision in the organization. The point of the matter is the mechanics of the PDPs really allows you to do personal development practically, and it makes the organization really, don't just say, oh, we want to develop our people. How are you developing our people? We're using the PDPs. Then just the last thing for the introduction is the development is also guided according to the individual's unique habits. So as you know, the Shadowmatch habit measurement gives the individual's unique habits. So what is their specific preferences in all of the behavioral patterns measured by the worksheet? Now, the system would recommend which programs would make sense for this individual. You can also guide this recommendation by comparing an individual to a benchmark in a specific role. So the benchmark would show you the landscape of what are the habits that are functional towards success in your unique environment in that specific role. So let's say I'm in the sales environment and you have a benchmark showing which of the habits are effective. This benchmark is informed by your own top performers in that specific role. You combine the habits on the system gives you that map to see which of the habits to what extent is really needed for success in that environment. If I'm now one of the employees working in that role, not performing currently, and you compare my habits against it, the system would recommend which of these habits will make my life easier in this role. So which development would guide me towards optimal fulfillment and optimal performance in my specific role. Okay, so As I said, if this is an information overload, if you're feeling lost by the things I've just explained, remember there's webinars focusing in specifically on this. Today, we're just going to keep it practical to the point that you can see the mechanics of clicking on the system. So I'm logging in, I'm using fictitious data, but obviously everything I'm doing, you will be able to do live with the data in your file on the system. So I now want to request a PDP for one individual. So it's one individual I'm going to embark this journey of development on. You have the option to at any point request PDPs in bulk as well. So if you have identified all of the individuals you want to activate programs for, you can access the PDP bulk request here in your left main menu, and then you can request it for an entire organization, an entire section, and streamline the whole process, preload all of the mentors. So this is really for that bulk application of it. More on that on the webinars focusing on that specifically. Today, let's look at one individual. So I'm going to sales. I know the individual is in sales. If I didn't know where the individual is, I could have searched for the individual by searching the individuals. I know the individual is currently an employee in sales. So I want to request a PDP for Alex. At this stage, I'm a system administrator using the system. I go to Alex's results. And then at the bottom of the page, I'll see, okay, so this is Alex's own habits matched against the benchmark she's currently working in. And you see there's a 7 out of 10 match. So there's a good alignment, but there is potential area for development. Now I want to embark on the journey of development for her. So I simply click on this button here, request PDP. Now the system shows me all of the programs available to my disposal. You'll see there's 20 options, all 19 of the habits measured by the worksheet, as well as time management. You'll see 2 of the programs are highlighted or recommended at this stage. Why? Because this individual is now matched against this benchmark and it's guiding the potential area of development. I can obviously choose any program that I want to. This is just the system's recommendation. Today, I'm going to follow the system's recommendation and I'm going to request the to simplify option. Now you'll see when you request this, it gives you the option to add the manager's detail. You'll see it's optional. So obviously it's not compulsory. You can keep that empty. Why do we add that? And that is what would be explained if you read what the system tells you there is this is now informing the manager, listen, this individual is going to embark on this journey of development. So they're actively taking interest in their own development and they actually have a tangible process to do this. So the manager is informed to say, I'm going to be supportive around this. I'm aware of this happening. So let's just say the manager is John. And you'd obviously put in his email. Let's just put in my email address, but we don't because I am working on the live system that some John does in some way get an email saying he's a manager for a PDP. So that would be the management. What are the things that you now need to do to actually activate the program is you need to choose the mentor. Here you can say, I choose the mentor, I being the individual reading this, the system administrator, or the individual can choose the mentor. For today, I'm going to add the mentor, and the mentor's name is Sam. And this is now one of the individuals working in the organization. Now the email I have for Sam, let's just put that in. Sign. Great. Okay, so you would put in the mentor's name, surname, email address, and app. So actually requesting the mentor is requesting the program is quite easy. I just simply added the details here, and then I can say what is the type of PDP that we're working with. Generally, if you're working in a general or a business environment, the standard option there would be applicable. If you are, however, specifically an academic organization or a sports institution or sports environment, you're welcome to choose the type applicable to you. This would then keep the content of the PDP the same, but it changes the language to fit to that environment to say, we're working with athletes or sports individuals, how would this habit relate to that? Or working in a student environment, how would that relate to that? But the core content of the program is the same. 9 out of 10 times, if you're in a general organization, the default option would be applicable to you. So you don't have to stress about that last button there. And all I do is submit. Now I've requested the program for Alex. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Alex/Lizette. Lizette will be showcasing us what would be the individual's experience having now been invited to partake in a PDP. Thanks, Lizette.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to share my screen just to show you the email that I've received now from the mentor, that the mentor has now invited me as the mentee to do the PDP. So let me share my screen. So this is the email that I've received. Dear Alex, you are herewith invited to embark on a Shadowmatch personal development program. This program will provide you with an opportunity to engage with a number of activity-based learning outcomes and the rest. And then it says the following personal development program has been selected for your development path, and that's the program to simplify. If you would like to start this personal development program, please click on the link below. You will be able to start the program in the personal development section of your portal. And then it says, this person is assigned as my mentor, Sam Fields, with the email address of the mentor. So you can see that it's very comprehensive and that the individual immediately knows who's the mentor with the email address of the mentor. So should the mentee feel that they first want to engage with the mentor before they just go to the program, they can do that. I'm going to choose now to go. You can use the following button and I'm going to say go to my PDP. So the system will now take me to my portal immediately because it's recognized my email address and my portal. And you can see that I'm now Alex Rivers. I am in the personal portal for Alex. And now it says personal development program to simplify. Your recommended PDPs are determined by your latest Shadowmatch results. There you are. I can decline the invite should I wish to, for whatever reason. I'm now going to decide to accept the invite. You can also see on my personal portal as a mentee, I have all the other PDPs available. So I obviously can go and I can say I'm declining this invite. Dear mentor, I would rather like to do propensity to change. So there can be a negotiation between the mentee and the mentor, which doesn't often happen because we prefer that the negotiation between mentor and mentee happens beforehand, or that the employee or the individual that's going to embark on the P obviously is known in the discussions before we go ahead and we send the invitation. So let me accept the invitation for the to simplify. There you see, the invite has a pre-selected mentor. There's my mentor's details again. This invite has a pre-selected completion method, and it was screen-based that my mentor chose. And it has a pre-selected type. What does this type mean for the PDP experience? It's a general business PDP. So if it's a sports PDP or a student, obviously this will be highlighted here. And then just some information. And now I say, great, I'm happy with this, I confirm. So the moment I confirm, I've accepted this invitation, and you can see that my next screen on my portal opens up. And this say, okay, are you ready to get started? That's my status now. Yes, I am ready. So I can now go and start my PDP. You can also see, dear participants, that I can at any point in time pause, I can stop, or I can also edit my mentor. If for some reason my mentor decides to leave the country, or my mentor falls ill, or something happens, I can go and I can edit the mentor and input the details of the new person that's now going to be my mentor. For this demonstration, let me start the PDP. There you go, to simplify general business. Then it's a nice introduction. It gives me some notes and guidelines as the mentee, what can I expect? And it tells me what is a good mentor. So I can now make sure that my mentor, Sam, actually that she does all these things. Now I've read this and I go to my next phase. Now you can see that the system gives me a warning. Pending mentor. Please wait for Sam to accept your mentorship request. So because the first phase has now opened up, I cannot continue to the next phase because my mentor now first needs to say, great, you have accepted the invite, and fantastic, you can now continue. So let me stop sharing so that my mentor can show you what happens on her side.
Great, thanks, Azette. Thanks for taking us through that first step. Now I'm going to be in the role of the mentor of the individual. So let me just open up the screen that you can see what's my experience here. Here we go. Azette, that email hasn't come through, so I just want to check that we add my correct email address there. I can just show you what has happened on my side because I've added myself as the manager. This would be the experience. So the manager was just informed to say, Alex River has decided to embark on a Shadowmatch personal development program, and please give the necessary support for this. Okay, Lizette, let me just check because I haven't seen the email. So it was supposed to send me that email. I'm just going to grab that email that we can go directly. I just want to show you in the back end.
Susanne, I see there's a finger error. Let me correct it. I'm going to edit the
Oh, is it?
mentor. So let me do that
Great.
live and share my screen and edit the mentor so that we sort of showcase that as well, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so I'm glad this happened live, guys, that you can see if a user error slips in, meaning you type in the email address incorrectly, there is an option to correct it live on the system. So thanks, Lizette, just for correcting the mentor's details there.
Great. Let me share my screen. So this is where I left off. So you can see that I can't progress. So I'm going to go back to my PDPs. And then I'm going to use the edit mentor option. So as you can see, it's Peter de Villiers without an R. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to type peterdeviliers.co.za. Susanne, please do a second check. Does it look correct to you now? Fantastic. Let's confirm. And that should now send the email that Susanne was waiting for.
A vital all. Great. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so back to where we were. So the mentor has just been invited to be the mentor for this individual embarking on the journey. What would be their experience? So now I'm going to go into the role of the mentor that was added to this program. And the email I would receive is the following. Dear Sam, Alex Rivers, that's the individual embarking on the program, would like you to be the mentor for their To Simplify Personal Development Program. You can respond to this request on your PDP mentor dashboard. Then it gives me the option to access this dashboard directly. Now, important to mention here is you see everything is facilitated via the personal portals of the two individuals. So now I just need to put in my password as the individual, and this takes me to my own personal portal as Sam, the mentor. Go this in. Great. There we go. And it takes me to my mentoring section. So it tells me everything that I need to know, the entire summary of what is currently happening. So this is the individual, this is where they are. And now I can either accept or decline. By accepting this, this would then link the program to say, yes, I do want to do this. This would then, in other words, link the two of us. So now Lizette or Alex has the mentor, and I on my side as the mentor have access to this. So at any point, I can then view or pause or remove this if needed. And you'll see it will always give me a status to say what is required of me. So currently my feedback is up to date. All I needed to do is accept this. And by accepting it, it would trigger the process for Lizette to then embark on the next phase. So if she then completes the program, this would look different, but more on that a bit later. At this point, I can just view to see, okay, this is the first phase. This would then guide me. It gives me complete guidance notes to say what is expected of me as a mentor. Why was I linked at this? And what is my role in this process? So everything I need to know about being a mentor for the individual is here. And if I want to preview the next phase to see, oh, I'm curious what they are going to do, I always have the option to see what is going to happen. So she is now going to embark on phase one, but I, as the mentor, is completely informed to see, okay, what is this individual working on? As you see, there's no content yet because Lizette hasn't, or Alex hasn't done this program yet. So I can preview this stage. But if I want to just show you, I'm just going to click back. You see on my personal portal as individual, I have access to this tab here, personal development mentoring. And this is where I would be able to access all of the mentees I'm mentoring. In this scenario, we're just using one individual with one mentor. But let's say as a mentor, I have a few individuals, everything will be on this screen. Okay, but I've accepted. So now we can go back to the mentee. Alex, what did you receive on your side?
Thank you, Susanne. Let me share my screen. Great, so I should be able to continue to my next phase now. Let me just also check my emails before I do that. Let me just move all the faces here. Let's just refresh. Okay, we'll check the email in a moment. So let me continue to the next phase. There you are, my next phase, phase one. So I can now input my information. So the homework that I have to do, it tells me the purpose of this first phase is to help you clarify a few expectations you might have and to start your engagement with your mentor. In short, introduce yourself to your mentor. So obviously to save time, I'm just going to do ABC in all the blocks. How do you think this program will help you grow? What do you expect to do better once you've completed this program? What do you expect from your mentor? Let's say support and not ABC. What would you like your mentor to do if your progress with this program is too slow? Great. So I've now done all my feedback. I've done my thinking. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and submit this phase. You can see that there's also an option to just save the answers. So if I feel that I need to do some more thinking, I want to come back to this before I submit for my mentor to give feedback, I can just save and come back. At this point, I'm going to say, no, I'm happy with my answers. I think my mentor can read them. I'm going to save and I'm going to submit the phase to my mentor. Then again, there's just a little screen and a pop-up that makes sure that I am comfortable, that I want to confirm and I want to submit. Yes, let's go, confirm. And now my next phase is active. You can see that my phase 2 is active. So I can start with phase 2 whilst my mentor is reviewing phase 1. So let me stop sharing.
Great. So now the mentee has submitted the first phase. As mentor, I now am informed. So I have the following email. So it says, Dear Sam, Alex Rivers has submitted phase 1 of the personal development program. Please use the following button to review the content. So it's going to take me back to my personal portal. So do you catch the drift of what we're showing? Everything is facilitated via the emails and the personal portals of the two individuals. So everything automated, it seamlessly happens. It notified me, and now it shows me, okay, what has this individual actually submitted? So let's go and see. Now I can see the individual's content. So this is what she submitted. And now I read through this mindfully, see what it's about, and then give my feedback. If I'm not completely happy, let's say the individual just brushed it, just put in ABC as an example, to say, I'm not sure that they really put in their heart and soul into this phase. Let's not move on yet. I can request a change. This would then automatically then give it back to the individual to say, listen, let's still stay on this phase. Let's not move on yet. And the individual has the option then to go and change the content, revisit that phase, and then resubmit it again, that I can give the mentor feedback. In the scenario where my individual really engaged, completed the phase effectively, I can then give the feedback to say, great work, la-di-da, focus on this in phase 2. So whatever my feedback would be for them, and then you see it's there, and then I can sign this off. The same as with the individual on their side is I can either just save it for now to say, maybe I just need to think about this about, or I just want to save part of my feedback. Or if I'm happy to say, yes, I've given everything that I want to do in this feedback, I can say save and submit feedback. Obviously, submit feedback means the feedback is going to the individual. So if I'm happy that this is everything I wanted to say in this phase, great, I can say save and then submit the feedback, and off the email would go to the individual. I just want to show you what this view looks like. You see now up to date again, because I have reviewed it. If I haven't reviewed it, this would say feedback outstanding. So I can have a summary. Let's say I have 20 individuals on this screen. I would have a complete summary of which of my feedbacks are up to date and which are still outstanding. So everything on my mentoring hub here, and obviously facilitated by the emails. Josette, would you like to share the next email, or do you think we're good to? Great, thanks. Okay, back to you.
Thanks, Suzanne. I think it's just the last step to show. So what happens is, and as Suzanne rightly said, there's a communication via email all the time. So once I submit, my mentor gets an email. Once the mentor gives feedback, the mentee gets an email, so that you know that there's something that you can go and view and that you can progress and you can go to the next phase in the PDP. So I've obviously now received an email. So I would like to show you what the email looks like. So there you are. Dear Alex, your mentor Sam has provided feedback on the phase that you have submitted. You can use the button to access your personal portal to review the feedback and continue with the next phase of your personal development program. So great. Immediately I know that there's feedback. I can continue. So I'll click on the button and I'll go to my PDP. Great. There you are. Phase 1. I can now view the feedback from my mentor, and I can see that it's signed off. And I can continue to the next phase. I might have started with the next phase, but I can now see that if my mentor wanted me to do changes to the first phase, I can do those changes and I can rework phase 1 as well. Now I can continue, and this is now the process for all the phases in the PDP. I just want to make a last comment. You would have noticed that when I click on the button, it takes me immediately to my personal development program, being the mentee. But every time Suzanne reads the email as the mentor and she clicks on that button, it requests of her to put a password before she goes to her personal portal. That's a specific step that we've added for mentors. Because remember, a mentor will probably not just mentor one person. And we don't want that dashboard to be accessible to anybody else, where they just find that email. If people share emails, they click on that and they go to that mentor dashboard and they can see all the information of all the mentees. So this is a confidentiality thing, and it's in line with the POPI Act, so that a mentor that, remember, I only work with my own information. That's my portal. That's why I can click on it and I go to my portal immediately. But the mentor will work with the information and the feedback from multiple mentees. And that's why it's required every time the mentor clicks on that button in the email that they have to enter their password. Remember, Suzanne doesn't have to use the button in the email. The mentor can just straight go into Shadowmatch, log in, and view the information on their dashboard. The email notifies them, but she doesn't have to use the button in the email. She can actually just log into Shadowmatch and go straight to the dashboard and view all the information that was submitted via the mentees and from her people that she's mentoring. Thank you, Suzanne.
That's a great comment you made at the end. Let me just show you what that would look like. If I just went straight into my dashboard as a mentor and I clicked on personal development mentoring at any point, you see now what's happening here is I can then see, okay, what's happening? Is it up to date? Is it outstanding? What are all of the mentees that I still need to go and focus on, and which phase are they currently? So I can either use the email or just log in directly to my personal portal and use the dashboard there. Okay, great. Thanks, Azette. Thanks for that live demonstration of this. So the purpose of that is that you can see, okay, what would be the experience of an individual embarking on the program? What would be the experience of the mentor? That you can see practically how is this process all fitted together. Now we have one question in the chat. We can address that before we open up the floor. Thanks, Carlo. I see, Lizette, you have answered Carlo there as well. I just wanted to mention to him as well, we do have a CC option as well on the system on specific emails. So let's say something like you're sending a team report and you're sending it to the manager of the team, then there will be a copy in field where you can add any email address there. So it really would depend on which email you are referring to. Lizette's answer there would refer to the emails notifying the individual about the worksheet. So each email has the specific notification to the individuals applicable. If the consultant specifically wants to be copied in, you can choose the option to notify me upon completion, for instance, or if there's a CC option, he or she can add their own details in it. So yeah, so I just hope that answers the question there. Let's go and just change our setting that the individuals can unmute themselves. There we go. Okay. Okay, are there any questions on the floor? You're welcome just to unmute, raise your hand, or raise your virtual hand, or just send it in the chat if you would like us to facilitate the question. Oh, yeah, there's a hand. Paul, you're welcome to go ahead. Forgot it. Let's see, I didn't allow it that you can. Now?
Okay. Yeah, mine pertains more to the paper one. Sometimes you have customers who don't have computers. How would you progress in the PDP? Does someone then take the paper form and then type it into the platform, or how does that work? I've never had experience with that, and I'm not too sure how many people actually use it. But if someday someone's going to ask me, I want the paper-based one, I don't want the screen-based one.
Okay, great. Thanks for positioning that question. So just the history. So the PDPs, when they were introduced in paper format. That would then give you access to the entire program that's printed out in a PDF. that you can then work with a physical document. So that would then be, I take the document, the mentor and I have a face-to-face engagement. I do whatever I need to do. I make my notes on the paper and give the paper to him. He reviews, give the paper back to me. So that's where it was developed initially. That then obviously has a few risks and cons to it, to say, if I lose the paper, all is lost. If the paper gets wet, if, whatever can happen to a paper, if the dog eats my homework, then it is gone. So we moved all of this virtual to say, let's facilitate this progress, and exactly linking to your question to say, but how do we then optimize the flow of this? How are we notified? How are we scheduling? How this? That is then dependent on the individual and the mentor's urgency in it. How stringent are they sticking to the program? Are we regularly meeting? Are we doing this? So unfortunately, if you go to the paper option, there is no online trail. There is no online tracking of it. What you also lose is, we didn't now show this, is there's an export PDP functionality where you can have an entire export of what is happening PDP wise across your entire organization. So in one snapshot, you can see who's doing which PDP on which phase, who's the mentor, which feedback is outstanding. If you're thinking about doing this in bulk numbers, then someone who manages this has access to that export function. The moment you go to the paper option, then the paper is outside of the system. So the comment we would advise is only use paper-based if that is the solution to the problem. If the problem was, we don't have internet access, we don't have access to devices, and we are based close to each other. Because if I were able to have a virtual facilitated session with my mentor, that means I do have access to internet, I do have access to a device, so that means we can go the online route. So only in the case where it needs to be face-to-face, and you would then use the paper-based option. Remember, everything is mobile friendly as well, so the individual can do the PDP on their phone. They don't have to have access to a computer device. So yeah, that's just a side comment. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions, but the PDPs are, at this stage, we're still keeping it there for the extreme exceptions in the cases where there is an accessibility to the internet and to devices, or if they prefer then that option to go the face-to-face route and then working with a tangible paper option. Great. Okay, other questions, other comments? Anything about the landing page? Lizette, back to you.
Thanks, Susanna. Yeah, I think more on the information center, but just the last comment. Remember, Paul, even if it's a face-to-face session, you can still, we still actually suggest and we prefer that you use the virtual, the screen-based, because then there's record keeping, and you can both sit with the computer, look at the work, and then say, great, I'll do my feedback, I'll submit, you will get the email that notifies you. So with the paper, as Susanna rightly said, there's no email notification or anything. It's really just, it's a hard paper. So obviously we would suggest, even if you do face-to-face sessions, to rather use the screen-based PDP. Then just on going live of the information center. So I know some people joined late. Remember, we're switching it on tonight. So tomorrow, when people log into Shadowmatch, that's the first page that they will see. So you might get clients that phone you and say, what happened? Remember, this was communicated quite well. For those of you that might have missed some of the communication, we communicated this in the newsletter that went out on the 1st of or the 2nd of April. So it was communicated in the newsletter. We had the banner on the website live since Monday to urge people to click and view. We've got the webinar happening today. So it was communicated widely. So if clients do phone and say what happened, maybe it's important to just also refer them back to the newsletter, because the newsletter, remember, dear participants, gets sent out from the system and goes to all system users registered on the system. So all system users would have received the newsletter, and all system users, that's the 5th thing that we did, all system users received an email this morning telling them about this new login flow that will go live tomorrow, also inviting them to the webinar this afternoon for more information. So it was communicated widely in different forums and in different formats. So there's no need for somebody to be nasty to you as a consultant. It was communicated quite well. So yeah, if you log in tomorrow morning, you will have a new welcome page. Thanks, Susanne.
Great, thanks, Lizette. Any other questions, other comments from someone's side? Yes, Paul, you're welcome.
Sorry, all these questions. Just another question. When it says request changes, once I clicked on that and it almost deleted all the information. I don't know whether it was just a a mistake on the system. But when you say request changes, it pretty much leaves all the answers that they've given there the same. It's just where I can then say, please expand a little bit more on point 5. So it leaves the existing data intact, I presume.
Yeah. So it keeps the content there, and it just adds your request change. You have the option to add a message to your request change to say, this is the reason for me requesting. Sorry, I didn't show that, but if you click on request change, it opens up a screen where I can then type in what is the reason for that. And that message is then added to the portal, to that phase, as well as in the email communicated to the individual. But the content of the individual stays the same. It just becomes editable again on their side, meaning it's not submitted and done. It becomes open again for them to rework and revisit and change. But the content that isn't cleared, that all the work is now missing. Great, good question.
And I see on some phases it says you can edit this after the phase has gone on. I think it's one that we're busy doing on leadership. It says that you can edit one of the phases.
Yeah, that would, if the phase or the program needs that to say, listen, you might be reviewing or referring back to a previous phase, that would then be the development to say this phase needs to be open in order to do the next phase. So that would then be an option there. But if the phase doesn't link to the next phase specifically, then it will go to the standard route to say, okay, done, dusted, moving on to the next phase. Great. Okay, other questions, other comments? No. Great. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was lovely to spend time with you as always. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send it to info@Shadowmatch, and then we can address it there. And then enjoy the new experience logging in tomorrow. We really hope it's a meaningful experience for you. Click, go and watch, go and learn, and then we hope to see you next time. Go well.